Hey guys, what's up? Crazy Kae-len back again with another video. In this video, I'll be telling you all how to max BB-9E, or as I like to call him, BB-9E. I'll be talking about star cards, giving you handy tips and strategies to use in games, and going through each map in co-op and how to play on them and earn the maximum amount of XP to level up BB-9E as quick as you can. I know a lot of people don't like him and can find him very hard to use, but hopefully this video can help a lot more people do better with him and max him out pretty quickly. If this video does help you, please like it and subscribe if you haven't already, and comment down below telling me what hero or villain I should try to max out next after Captain Phasma, which I'm going to be doing next, and I might do them. I'm going to make this a series, so stay tuned for some more how to max videos in the future. However, I'm only uploading these videos after I've maxed out the person in the video, so the videos may come out pretty slowly depending on how quickly it takes for me to max the person out. Right, so with BB-9E, you'll always want 3 specific star cards equipped. These cards are Full Reconstruction, Linked Systems, and Faster. Full Reconstruction allows for BB-9E to have an extra 100 health generation, meaning that he can regenerate up to 350 total health. This card can really save you a lot of times when you get down to critical health, and you'll survive much longer with this card equipped. Linked Systems allows BB-9E's damage output to be increased by 1 every 4 successful enemy stuns to a maximum of 8. This means that every 4th time that he successfully stuns an enemy with his shock prod, BB-9E will deal extra damage by 1. Then on the 4th stun again after that one, the damage output will be increased by 1 again, meaning that he will deal 2 extra damage to enemies with his shock prod. This cycle will go on until it stops at a total extra damage output of 8, meaning that BB-9E deals 8 extra damage to enemies with his shock prod than he usually would. This might not seem like much, but it can definitely affect how quickly you kill the enemies, sparing you some extra health that may have otherwise been lost. Faster, the final card you want equipped, doubles BB-9E's shock spin damage every time a maximum of 2 enemies are hit by it upon activation. This means that he can kill his enemies with his shock spin a whole lot faster, and he won't be sitting around like a sitting duck while getting shot at by the enemies. Of course, it still does take a significant amount of time to kill the enemies, though it is a whole lot quicker and can be pretty noticeable once you've had the star card equipped. These 3 cards are the same cards that I recommend you use for all game modes, as all of BB-9E's other star cards are pretty bad and don't help much. However, there is one exception, which is if you are playing on a map with lots of ledges and you want to ledge people. I would recommend using Spin Me Round, which increases the push distance of BB-9E's shock spin by 4 meters, meaning that enemies hit with his shock spin will be blasted 4 meters further, making it much easier to ledge people. This star card does come with a cost, however, increasing the cooldown time for this ability, which isn't something that you want. If you were to use this card, I'd replace it with Linked Systems, because 8 bonus damage isn't much. However, I would still generally use Linked Systems instead of Spin Me Round, and recommend that to everyone else as well. Right, so if you want to max out anyone, I'd recommend playing co-op, as it gives the most XP and is much easier to level up in co-op than with any other game mode. I would also recommend playing on triple or double XP days. However, if you want to grind him on any other days that are not bonus XP days, that's also completely fine. So to grind BB-9E, you want to select co-op first order. There are 6 maps that you can play on in first order, being the MC-8 5-star cruiser, the Resurgent class Star Destroyer, Jakku, Takodana, Starkiller Base, and Ajan Kloss. I will be going through all of these maps and showing and telling you how to play as him on these maps to get maximum XP and level up the fastest, as I want for you to be able to have a strategy for each map, including the defense ones. I'll be doing this for all my how to max videos by showing how to play on every map available to the specific hero or villain, instead of selecting just a few key maps like some other YouTubers might. I want to help you all the best I can, and that can only be achieved by telling you what to do in every and any situation and map. Right, but before I start talking about maps, you need to first know how to play as BB-9E, as a lot of people can find it difficult to play as him, and I want to give those people tips and help them to play better with BB-9E. Right, so with BB-9E, you can never be staying still. This is a critical element to playing as him. Whether attacking an enemy or rushing to get somewhere, you always want to be dashing around. This makes it a lot harder for the enemies to be able to hit you and a lot easier for you to take less damage. You should always be dashing around or past enemies while attacking them, making it harder for them to hit you, while still shocking and damaging them. When first attacking an enemy, you want to start by jumping, and while in the air, you shock them. This will make it nearly impossible for them to hit you, and by the time that you land back down on the other side of them, they'll have to turn around before they start attacking you. Then you just continuously dash around or past them while shocking them until they're dead. With BB-9E, you always want to use your smoke screen when rushing into a group of enemies, making it harder for them to see you, but easier for you to see them. You should always use your shock spin on big groups of enemies and save it just for that. Don't ever use it on 1 or 2 enemies, because 15 seconds later, when a large group of enemies appear and rush you, you're going to wish that you hadn't wasted your shock spin, and trust me, I know this from doing this myself multiple times. Reserve this ability for when you are rushing into a group of enemies or surrounded by a group of enemies. His charge up should also only be used at specific times. Never use it when you're sitting still waiting for a clump of enemies to come to you, or when you're on your own. You always want your team and the enemies to be near you when using your charge up. Then use it to help your team and to get some assist bonuses and earn extra XP. You should also use your charge up if you're having a battle with a hero and are on low stamina, to replenish the stamina so you don't have to wait for it to come back. Those are the only 2 situations that you should ever use your charge up in. With BB-9E, there are 2 enemies in particular that you always want to look out for, and should never try to engage with, especially on your own. These are Finn and the Caphex spy. However, you should also try to avoid the Ovissian Gunner, BB-8, Chewbacca and Rey, if she's near lots of other enemies, but mainly just Finn and the Caphex spy. Both of them can finish you off super quickly and easy, and if you don't know how to properly counter them, get prepared to be turned into their personal salad bowl, because they'll finish you off in seconds. With the Caphex spy, either just try to avoid him, however, if that's not an option, dash around him and wait for him to pull out his rapid fire. You'll see him do this when he changes weapons. The second he does this, stun him so that his rapid fire gets disabled and he can no longer use it. Then proceed to dash around him and through him while shocking him, and you will be able to dispose of him. With the Ovissian Gunner, lure them to charge at you, and the second they get into range of your stun them so they get stopped dead in their tracks, and then proceed to finish them off. If you're up against Rey, you always want to make sure you're alone and she isn't surrounded by any enemies, because if she mind tricks you while there are at least 10 enemies nearby blasting at you, the situation isn't going to end well for you. Even these days, as a max BB-9E, I still fall for this trap sometimes. Never fall for it, and always lure Rey away from the rest of the group. If it's impossible, just leave them and move somewhere else. However, if Rey does follow you and leaves the group, start doing the Rey troll. Stun her as she runs towards you, and then shock her until she becomes unfrozen and runs at you again. When you feel she's close enough to you to be able to hit you, dash backwards each time while still zapping her. She'll continuously get shocked and zapped, draining her health while you just continue to dash backwards and out of her range to be able to hit her. Eventually she'll follow you into her out of objective area, and because the AI are pretty stupid, she won't go back, so she will die from being out of the objective, or you'll manage to kill her by continuously trolling her and draining her of her health. While zapping her, you can even dash through her if you want, so she'll have to turn around to attack you. If she mind tricks you while doing this, don't stress. Just dash forwards or backwards and focus on staying out of her range of danger and not on zapping her until you gain your full control back. Then continue the process again. If you run into a Finn, or if a Finn is with a huge crowd, you always want to separate him from that crowd and get him alone, because Finn plus crowds equals deadly with a 99.9% chance of dying. Simple maths. Finn can be quite tricky to separate from crowds, but you can do this by making sure he sees you and you continue to dash backwards and then forwards again. If he starts to follow you, make sure he follows you to an isolated spot and don't lose his attention, or else he'll go back to his team. Once he's alone and away from the group, start shocking him while dashing around and jumping. If a shock spin is necessary to knock him off his feet and unsteady him for a few seconds, then this is for one situation where I'd tell you to make an exception about that rule I said earlier about saving shock spins for large groups, and I would say to use it on Finn. Continue to dash around and jump while shocking him, and never stop dashing. 1 second of no dashing can be fatal to you, so don't stop until he's dead. Also, never rush a group of enemies if Finn is in or near that group, because one shock spin, one big deal, one big group of angry enemies who want to kill you, and one dead BB-9E. With Chewbacca, you just have to keep dashing and shocking, like with Finn and Rey. Don't stop dashing or shocking, and if Chewie stuns you or pulls out Furious Bowcaster, get out of there fast. You can be ended real quick with one stun by Chewie or one Furious Bowcaster. If he doesn't do this, continue shocking him and dashing around him. However, don't underestimate him. Chewbacca does have the ability to surprise you and can actually end up catching you off guard somehow a lot of the time and managing to get quite a lot of shots on you and gain the upper hand, so you need to be wary of him. When going up against BB-8, always make sure to get him out of his cable spin by stunning him while doing his cable spin. This will cancel out his cable spin. However, generally while attacking BB-9E, BB-8, there isn't much you can do. Dashing and stunning while zapping him won't do anything because BB-8 is just like you and at the same height as you, so he can also do the same thing to you. He also has more health than BB-8 than you, giving him the advantage. BB-8 is pretty tough to beat as BB-9E, and he can be just as quick and agile, so there isn't too much you can do as BB-9E, but catch him off guard with a shock spin and then start attacking him and making sure to stun him as much as you can. Right, now with the maps. For the MC-85 Star Cruiser, you're going to want to get BB-9E on the first phase as it's a capture map, so you'll therefore get more XP when capturing the first command post. On phase 2, you want to enter the room leading with a shock spin to knock all the enemies off their feet and wipe them out. There will be a hero on this command post, and all 4 heroes can really mess up your shock spin and easily get you killed. So try to stay away from the heroes as much as you can, and get rid of everyone else as quickly as you can before the hero can try to mess up your spin. You could also wait at the entrance for your teammates to enter the room with you to help. However, you would then get a lot less kills, which wouldn't be as good for your XP. Towards the end of capturing the second command post, a group of enemies will spawn in the corridor outside the room. You should go into that corridor and try to wipe them out with a shock spin, then make sure to always keep an eye on your out of bounds timer. On phase 3, you want to go to the command post A, because there are much more enemies there than at B, and therefore much more kills to be earned. If you see a hero at this command post, try to enter at a diagonal angle of the command post to them, so when you use your shock spin, they'll hopefully be knocked over the fences into the blue pit and instantly killed. After clearing this command post, you can either choose to stay there and get some sweet shock spin kills as more enemies enter, or you can choose to switch between command posts and head over to B. For me, I like to usually switch between command posts and go to B so I can eliminate all the enemies over there and then move back and forth between the 2 command posts to get rid of all the enemies and that infiltrate them while you're not there. At the start of phase 4, you want to enter the command post from behind and start with a shock spin. Make your way to the center of the command post, destroying all the enemies as you go, and once your shock spin is finished, depending on how much health you have, you can either choose to stay there and finish off the stragglers, or you can go and hide somewhere so you don't get hurt or killed. After clearing the command post, watch your minimap at the bottom of the screen. When the radar glows red, you will know that the enemies have just spawned in that area. As soon as you see this, you should rush behind the command post and into the out of objective area. Use a shock spin there to remove as many of the enemies as you can, and then quickly get out of there before you die to the out of objective timer. Then clear off the command post with your shock prod and continue this process until the command post has been captured. This strategy is the best one for me, and it should leave you with a lot of XP afterwards. On the Resurgent class Star Destroyer, you should try to get BB-9E on the first phase, but it's fine if you don't, since it's a defense map. If you do get him on the first phase, immediately go to whichever command post looks like is in the most trouble, and try to clear out that command post. After that, head to the other command post and clear it out. After that, if both the command posts are cleared, head to one of the 3 resistance entrances and wait there for the resistance to run through the doors. When a large batch of them run through, use your shock spin to eliminate them. If you have to, push them back through the door with your shock spin and follow them there to get rid of them all. The door will probably have closed by the time your shock spin finishes, but that's no need to worry. Just wait patiently at the door for the next group of enemies to come. When they get there, dash left and right to provoke them to come closer to you to try and get a better aim to hit you with. This will set the door to open and you can escape. If you want to, you can finish the game on the first phase by constantly guarding the doors and objectives. However, if you get pushed back to the second phase, you can stand guard at the entrance, and every time a new group of enemies comes, rush in there with your shock spin and take as many of them as you can out. Go for a loop around so you go in through one door and come out the other, though don't go too deep or long in there, because it's very easy to die from being out of bounds in this area. Keep doing this and occasionally go to help out at the other 2 command posts if they need help, and you should win the game. Jakku isn't the best map for BB-9E in my opinion, however it's still pretty good. It's very spread out and easy to get shot from nowhere, and there's also lots of enemies, a lot less enemies than other maps in my opinion. However, it's still a good map. After spawning as BB-9E on the first phase, head to B and try to clear it out there. If it's already cleared out, just roam around the area and check A and C for enemies until one of the command posts gets captured. In phase 2, you should always start by going through the door furthest to the right that leads into B. The middle door is covered by a vast number of enemies and pretty wide open. However, there's more cover and protection in the door to B. Start by making your way to behind the huge container and then make a big push to head to B. You should use your shock spin if faced by a number of enemies. After this, get rid of any remaining people at B and then head over to A. If there's too much resistance there, head behind the container against the wall near A and hide there until your shock spin is available. Once it's available, don't be afraid to show it off to the enemy team and even give them a demonstration of it. After clearing A, you should stick there and capture it. Occasionally head through the door behind A to get rid of a few menacing enemies that tend to spawn there. If you do get in trouble there, you can always take this route straight to the bottom and then head back up to A. After capturing phase 2, make sure to clear out the middle route in between the 2 command posts. You will then want to go to A again, as it usually has more enemies, though not much, and they can be dealt with very easily and quickly. You can then just fall asleep while capturing this command post, as you don't have to worry about any more enemies showing their faces on this phase. On the final phase, you want to enter the area with a shock spin and try to get rid of as many enemies as you can. This command post is usually very tough to clear and can take multiple attempts to clear it, so don't try to clear it all in one attempt, as it will usually result in you dying. You need to slowly thin the ranks with this command post until it's fully cleared. After it's been cleared, sit near the 2 entrances and wait for the enemies to come down the stairs, where you can then surprise them with a shock spin. Continue this until the phase has been captured. With Muz's Castle, you should spawn on the first phase for a capture. You can choose which command post you want to go to, however I usually go to C as it has the most flak and the most enemies to kill. If you do go to C, try to thin the ranks there, and then when the next batch arrives, greet them with a nice little present, a shock spin. If there are too many enemies to kill and you're on low health, head behind the rock at the command post, and from there dash over towards the hill that leads up to B. Head over to A and try to clear it if there's anyone there. After capturing the phase, head to the little ditch behind where A is. There will usually be an enemy or two there, so try to finish them off with your shock prod. However, if there are lots of enemies there, use your shock spin on them and make your way up the slope into A. Eliminate as many people as you can on the hill with your shock spin before moving on to your shock prod to finish off the rest. After clearing A, try to make your way down to command post B and then get rid of the people there. As more enemies come, use shock spins and shock prods to eliminate them, depending on the size of the groups. On phase 3, you can choose to go to A or B, however I usually go to A. No matter what command post, you should always lead with a shock spin. Get rid of all the big groups there first, before getting rid of the rest. After that, just sit at that command post and wait for more enemies to come. When they do, just greet them with another shock spin and then again, finishing off the rest with your shock prod before heading back to the command post. After capturing phase 3, go to the castle and you need to go around through this entrance and come out the back. Lead with a shock spin and thin the ranks there. If there are too many enemies there still, then get out of there. However, if there aren't many enemies still, you can get rid of them all with your shock prod. On Starkiller Base, because it's a defense map, you want to win on the first phase, because the capture maps are what you want for better XP. You should spawn as BB-9E on the first phase and make sure that both the command posts are fine. After doing this, just sit at the spawn to command post A guarding it, and whenever a new batch of enemies spawns and arrive, you just shock spin them and annihilate the whole group. This is a pretty easy strategy and by far the easiest map for BB-9E, but definitely not the best for him. On Ajan Kloss, you want to spawn on the first phase for the extra battle points. Go to command post B and sit and capture it. If any more enemies come, just shock them and keep killing them all until you capture the command post. On phase 2, you want to go to whichever command post the ATST isn't at. Always come up through the middle path to check both command posts from a sort of safe distance. If the ATST is at B, or near the path you're at, then go and enter A through this path. This path is the easiest to take and least riskiest because it's hard to be seen by anyone by coming up this path, and it's blocked off from view by the bushes and hill. If the ATST is at A, or closest to A, go to B. Use the shock spin to enter the party and eradicate all the resistance there. If this fails at A, and there are still enemies shooting at you, retreat behind this tree and hide there until all your abilities have cooled down and your health has regened. This is the best hiding spot for BB-9E because nobody can see or shoot him here, and it's very close to A. Go back and shock spin again once your abilities have cooled down, and then just sit at the command post capturing it and occasionally killing anyone who comes along. If the ATST decides to say hello, get out of there immediately and head to the opposite command post via the outside path. In phase 3, you can also go to either command post. If you choose to go to B, you should go up this route and then try to make your way through the front defences and up the hill to B, where you can get rid of the remaining defences. You can also go into A and take this route to B. If you want to go to A, lead with a shock spin, but be cautious. There are lots of enemies here, and they are very spread out and hard to get with your shock spin. Try to slowly clear this objective, one kill at a time. Don't attempt to rush the enemies and get rid of them all at once. It will never work out for you. After having slowly cleared this objective, capture it while waiting for more enemies to come. When more enemies do come, you'll need to meet them as soon as they spawn. You can't let them get over the top of the hill, because then they'll spread out and be really far apart. Keep doing this and slowly capturing the command post until you reach phase 4. In phase 4, you want to make your way to behind the ship or in this area. When you feel ready, exit and shock spin your way into the center of the enemies. You are not going to kill all of the enemies with this one shock spin, so the second it finishes, you need to immediately retreat to this spot and wait for your next shock spin. After doing this same process a couple of times, there shouldn't be much enemies at the command post. By this point, you can go and take the remaining enemies out yourself. After having taken down all the enemies here, wait for the next wave to spawn. When it does, you have two choices. Either go into this little cave and shock spin them here and lead out into the other group from here, or retreat back at this spot and wait for the enemies to all gather at the command post, at which point you rush in with your shock spin again. Keep doing this until the command post has been captured. I think that overall, the two best maps to play as BB-9E are the MC-85 Star Cruiser, because the command posts are much more closed in and you can get a ton more kills, and Takodana, because it's a lot easier to survive and get a lot more kills and XP. I hope that this video really helps you with maxing out your BB-9E. Thanks for watching, and if it helped you, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Also comment down below which hero or villain you want to see me max out after Phasma, and I might do them. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope to see some pro or maxed BB-9Es out there, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye! Also, how to max assault coming out soon.